I've been thinking about a new domain of thought, not quite metaphysics, not quite cosmology, but somewhere in between, exploring the metaphysical significance of the properties of the cosmos as well as the various cosmic bodies, stars, galaxies, etc. I guess you say like meta-cosmology, but I don't love that word for some reason. But the fundamental message is that stars and galaxies are fundamentally not, just flaming gas balls and, collections thereof, but divine intelligences or distributed networks of intelligence that are fundamentally related to the teleology, the meaning and purpose of the universe itself. In the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, Eustace talks to a dead star called Vermadu. In our world, said Eustace, a star is a huge ball of flaming gas. And says, even in your world, my son, that is not what a star is, but only what it is made of. To quote Charles Eisenstein, this validates children's innate knowledge that we live in an animate universe, that we're not alone as the sole subjects of this world. He says, the sun is a being, not a human being in the form of the sun, but a being in its own right, with whom a human can have an authentic connection. So let's start by dissecting the notion that stars are living beings. By this I don't mean just the generic cognition attributable to every instance in the universe, like some panpsychists would claim, including myself, but instead private conscious experience, that there is something that it's like to be a star. So in Charles Eisenstein's article, The Sun is Alive and Why That Matters, he discusses how the conventional picture of scientific cosmologists that the sun is essentially a cloud of gas from the Big Bang, which is attracted by its own gravity by an accident of random processes and fuses hydrogen nuclei together and then releases photons until it dies, and then it's held together by, just the random balance of internal and external pressure, which lines up for its time. It's radically insufficient. It's not a good model. And as we discussed in the last video, careful analysis of the fundamental constants of physics reveals that if gravity, the speed of light, Planck's constant, etc. were slightly different, then the vast, vast majority of universes, stars, could not form. If either the electromagnetic force or the weak force were stronger, the sun would never form or blow up in seconds. And if the weak force were weaker, the sun would not ignite in the first place. Yet where the existence of God and purposeful design is not accepted, we can merely contend that the star's formation is an accident of evolution, or something that only happens in the universes in the multiverse, consistent with human evolution, because we're here to observe it. This is the weak anthropic principle, or WAP, not Cardi B, but anyhow. It's not... It's not quite a smoking gun that the forces of physics are intentionally adjusted to allow for life, but it's close. And so Rupert Sheldrake in his paper, Is the Sun Conscious, shows that the complexity of the sun's electromagnetic structures rival or exceed those of the human brain. And this fact is of special significance in light of the growing recognition of the role of electromagnetic fields in memory, cognition, and consciousness. This is from NASA research. They put out this video which basically shows that the sun is given lattice by the electromagnetic fields. And so physicist Greg Matloff says the behavior of stars in responding to their environment and the cohesion of galaxies are possibly explained by the conscious volition of stars, weird as though it may sound. Eisenstein says their stars rotate around the galactic core too quickly to be held there by the gravitation of observable matter. Instead of recourse to dark matter or randomness, he proposes that this is the result of intentional locomotion, one of the primary characteristics of life. So is it time to get off the crazy train? Could the stars really be conscious? You're free to leave, but just know that you're making my watch time go down by a little bit, so think twice. So anyhow, we move beyond the stars to the idea of living galaxies, the dynamic, metastable electromagnetic structures of galaxies themselves, the higher order coherence that binds the cosmos. They weave the firmament together and seem to have fairly well-organized system of stars, galaxies. And so this led Nobel-winning physicist Hans Alfvén. He claims that electromagnetism, not gravity, is the primary structuring force in the universe, conspicuously similar to modern neuroscience, which finds that electricity is also the primary structuring force of the brain, which carries out terminal operations for the individual mind. And so with regard to electromagnetism, Eisenstein says that because of tight feedback loops between plasma and electromagnetic fields, complex structures can emerge very quickly from initial chaos. And so this sounds conspicuously similar to something we've talked about on this channel, syntax state feedback, or telic recursion, a property of universal mind which allows for the intrinsic properties and purposes of existence to be expressed in a way that transcends ordinary causation, which is usually thought to be either random or deterministic. In other words, it requires self-determinacy, and self-determinacy requires a self, a volitional agent. Eisenstein says it forms plasma into cables, filaments, sheaths, pinches, helices, and various composite structures that interact dynamically and connect Earth to Sun, star to star, and galaxy to galaxy. These autopoietic, lifelike structures are very different from the slow mechanical clumping of matter by gravitation, which is the current model. So specified complexity, it's proven by mathematician William Dembski, like you see in the case of galaxies and solar systems or biological life. This sort of specified complexity can't be the result of either random or deterministic processes. And so a teleologic electromagnetic universe allows for specified complexity, syntax-state relations, distributed cognition, and conscious intention, in other words, design. And this brings us to whole new perspectives about the nature of reality. Contrary to the beliefs of rigid and hardened astrophysicists, the space of cosmology and cosmological theories is as infinitely expansive as the universe itself. So what are the implications for cosmology of a living, electric, cognitive theoretic universe? Einstein says they suggest a much more ancient and possibly eternal steady-state universe in which new matter is continuously born, and we'll be discussing this in the next episode of CTMU Cosmology. While standard cosmology asserts that entropy is always increasing, plasma-based steady-state theories allow for the ongoing creation of new negative entropy, which can account for the cosmic background radiation around the supposed time of the Big Bang. So while Albert Einstein notoriously considered his cosmological term, which assumed a self-representational / static and eternal universe, he considered that his greatest blunder. Perhaps it's not so, as the CTMU itself asserts the universe as a self-representational entity over the current scientific model of the expanding rubber sheet universe, and does not obviate the need for a Big Bang besides the logical analog of the creation event. So, maybe that Einstein guy will do something with himself one day, because he seems to have gotten a lot right. He seems quite smart. And so this model of the universe as a conscious, living, self-representational entity is infinitely exciting. Eisenstein says the universe as a whole, galaxies, stars, and the Earth seem to show key features of life: self-maintenance, physiology, volition, organs, complex responses to stimuli, homeostasis, self-organization, and in some cases even reproduction. They suggest the animist perspective that I began with, that we occupy a living universe. The sun, the earth, the forest, the human being are alive and sacred not because of some extra thing they possess. They are sacred because of what they are. In the Bible Project series on spiritual beings, they discuss how when the biblical authors looked up at the stars, they too saw not just flaming gas balls, but living spiritual beings called the sons of God, rulers and authorities, or the divine council. They're also called signs, which refers to something whose sublimity and grandeur points to the source of all sublimity and grandeur, God Almighty. Their very existence reveals the intricate teleology and will of God in the creation of the physical universe. So in the Book of Kings, the divine council helped God decide how to bring down the king of Israel, who has lost the authority of heaven. Bible Project says they're like God's staff team. The God of the Bible wants to share authority with others. In the same way God shares his authority with human partners, he does with the heavenly host as well. And this points the way to a new concept I'll call distributed fine-tuning, or distributed teleology. That much like we make decisions for God or reality at the local level, the stars and galaxies do as well. The processes in reality and the adjusting of conditions for the proliferation of life and teleologic self-exploration is not only done at the global level of God, the global operator, descriptor of existence, or the local level of human, but also at the in-between level of the divine council of stars, galaxies, superclusters, etc. That existence actually has, and these galactic structures are occupying part of that, but existence actually has certain intrinsic aims built into it, which it's trying to achieve. And this teleology is built in not only to God, but distributed through God's universal distributed form, consistent with the multiplex unity principle in the CTMU. Atlas from Simulation, a YouTube channel I subscribe to and enjoy very much, recently published a video called Settle into the Feeling of Being Absolute, which touches on these topics and more while he's smoking a cigar talking to his friend, who's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? But Yeah, side note, the second I turn 18, me and the boys are all getting cigars. It's not even a question. You know, these libs don't want me to get lung cancer while they're smoking their little jewels, the blueberry flavored air. But anyhow, I digress. But so they discuss galaxies as decentralized networks. It fundamentally understands that it's working together and is aware of itself. And this is what we were talking about when we were discussing the apparent conscious volition of galaxies with respect to self-organization and emergence. Atlas says the galaxy is the way that the creator expresses the combinatorics of itself, and then furthermore the mind-body-spirit complex are further combinatorial exploration and expression of itself. This is what Dr. Brian Keating says. The cosmos, as you know it, is filled with an infinite tapestry of potentiality. Chris Langan says reality actually has a goal, a teleological purpose that is determined by its structure. And basically, it is my job to fulfill, help reinforce reality's teleological impetus, which derives from its structure. And reality is doing this. It's creating this infinite expansive potential of life and consciousness, of living galaxies, solar systems, etc., and that most marvelous human being for the purpose of its self-identification, this is the telos of existence, the why which stands beyond. And God, in this space of potential, which is called the non-terminal realm in the CTMU, is naturally identified with infinity, boundless, endless, larger than any terminal expression of itself by its very nature. And so Atlas asks, when you ask a kid, will you ever come to the end of infinity? A child will probably tell you, no, you can't come to the end of infinity. And then you ask, well, what kind of a design would you make if you were infinity, for you to be able to explore endless potentiality? And then you look around and you see all of existence around you. You say, this is pretty fucking good. Just look up on high and see who created these. Our existence as we can see with our eyes and touch with our hands, this existence with all its sublimity, our universe grand beyond comprehension. You look around and you really see things as they are, and he's right. This is pretty fucking good. This is actually the best of all possible universes, according to Chris Langan. All is created for the greater glory of God, and this is according to Gottfried Leibniz as well, the inventor of calculus and one of the greatest philosophers in history. So Stephen Hawking says the human race is just a chemical scum on a moderate-sized planet orbiting around a very average star in the outer suburb of one among 100 billion galaxies. And we in this video turn that on its head, change that to, wow, look at all these massive stars and enormous galaxies, all created for the greater glory of God. How great is it, my chance to exist in this masterpiece, to be a part of the meaning and purpose, the teleological exploration, the creative play of the divine absolute, this universe of infinity, an exciting universe, all for the greater glory of God. And this is the perspective we'll be taking for the rest of the CTMU cosmology series. Lift up your eyes and see. Who created these? He who sends out their host by count, who calls them each by name. Because of his great might and vast power, not one fails to appear. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is God from of old, creator of heaven and earth, creator of the earth from end to end. He never grows faint or weary. His wisdom cannot be fathomed. The light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.